Have you ever noticed how heavy the word yes can feel? You say it automatically. A friend texts you needing a favor. A coworker asks if you can cover for them. Someone requests a piece of your weekend. And before you check your own schedule, before you take a quiet second to check in with your own body, your mouth has already formed the response. Yes, sure, no problem, I can do that. You become the reliable one, the person who is always willing to absorb the inconvenience so that someone else does not have to. But late at night, when the house is finally quiet and the endless list of tasks is done, you do not feel happy. You feel a quiet, hollow exhaustion spreading through your chest, wondering when someone is finally going to take care of you. You might call this being a good person. You might call it being easygoing or supportive. But if your kindness is constantly leaving you drained, entirely invisible, and silently resentful, it is not just kindness anymore. It is a trap. The nice guy trap. Or more accurately, the chronic people-pleasing trap. It is the quiet, daily habit of trading your personal boundaries for the illusion of keeping everyone else comfortable. You convince yourself that by being endlessly accommodating, by never causing friction, you are securing your place in people's lives. You believe you are building loyalty, but the reality is much colder. You are not buying their deep, unconditional love. You are just subsidizing their convenience at the absolute expense of your own peace. I know the exact texture of this exhaustion because I lived quietly inside that trap for years. I was the guy who was always okay with everything. There was one specific weekend that finally broke the illusion for me. A friend was moving out of their apartment and had left the deep cleaning until the absolute last minute. They called me in a panic on a Friday evening. I was already exhausted from a long, demanding week. My body was aching for sleep, but they sounded stressed. They asked for help, and so I went. I spent the entire night scrubbing floors, packing dusty boxes, and carrying heavy trash bags down 3 flights of stairs. We finished just as the sun was coming up. I dragged myself home, every muscle screaming, and collapsed into bed. Late that afternoon, I woke up, groggy and completely depleted. I reached for my phone and opened social media. The very first thing I saw was a story posted by that same friend. They were out at a loud, crowded brunch, laughing with a large group of people, holding a drink, looking completely energized. I just stared at the screen. I was not even angry at first. I was just deeply, quietly humiliated. I realized in that moment that my exhaustion meant absolutely nothing to them. They were not thinking about the fact that I had completely ruined my weekend so they could casually enjoy theirs. Why would they? I had freely handed over my energy, and they had simply taken what was offered. That is the darkest, most uncomfortable secret of the people-pleasing trap. When you never say no, people do not respect your yes. They stop seeing your yes as a generous gift, and they start treating it as a default setting. It is the exact same pattern when a coworker casually drops a massive project on your desk at 5 o'clock on a Friday, saying they just need a quick favor, and you end up missing dinner with your family to do their job. They are not doing it because they are maliciously trying to ruin your life. They are doing it because you have trained them to believe that your time is worth less than theirs. You have shown them, repeatedly, that you will absorb their stress so they do not have to feel it. We do this because of a very deep, very old psychological fear. If you look closely at the root of your chronic overgiving, you will usually find a terrified belief about your own fundamental worth. Somewhere along the line, you learn that your value to other people is entirely tied to your utility. You deeply believe that if you stop being useful, if you suddenly become inconvenient, if you say the word no and cause even a tiny ripple of friction, people will realize you are not worth keeping around. You are terrified of the space between you and another person when they are disappointed in you. The tension feels entirely unbearable, so you swallow your own boundaries to bridge that gap. You set yourself on fire just to keep other people warm. But the cost of avoiding that external friction with others is a massive, crushing internal friction within yourself. When you cannot say no, your entire life becomes a waiting room for other people's needs. You lose the shape of your own identity. Think about those minor, everyday moments that seem harmless, but slowly chip away at you. Sitting in a restaurant, eating food you do not even like because you did not want to complicate the group order. Over time, those tiny self-betrayals build up into a thick, heavy layer of toxic resentment. You start to feel bitter toward the people you are helping. You start to feel like everyone is taking advantage of you. But the hardest, most painful truth to swallow is that you are the one holding the door open for them to do it. If this is hitting dangerously close to home right now, I want you to pause for a second. Take a slow breath. This is not a moment to beat yourself up. People-pleasing is not a personality flaw. At some point in your life, reading the room and keeping the peace was the only way you knew how to stay emotionally safe. You became a hyper-vigilant radar for what everyone else needed because meeting those needs kept you out of trouble. You learned to be a chameleon to survive. It kept you safe, but it is slowly suffocating you right now. You are an adult now, operating with childhood software, trying to navigate a world that will happily take absolutely everything you have to give if you never put up a stop sign. The weekend after the apartment cleaning incident, I had to make a choice. I knew I could not keep living like a ghost in my own life. I had to learn the language of setting a boundary. A different friend texted me, asking me to drive 2 hours out of my way to pick something up for them. Normally, my fingers would have already typed, "Sure." But instead, I used the first, most crucial tool of breaking the trap, the pause. I did not reply immediately. I gave myself 10 minutes to actually feel my own fatigue. You have to break the reflex. You have to insert a gap between their request and your response. When you do finally respond, you have to realize that a boundary does not require an apology, and it does not require a 5-minute defensive explanation. This is where most of us fail. We over-explain. The more you explain, the more you sound like you are desperately asking for permission to say no. You have to practice the short, non-aggressive refusal. I looked at my phone and typed, "I don't have the bandwidth to make that drive today." That was it. No long paragraphs about how tired I was. Just a clear, calm, unshakable statement of my limit. If the thought of a hard, flat no feels entirely paralyzing, you can build a psychological bridge. You can use the boundary plus alternative method. You protect your immediate physical and emotional limit, but you offer a choice that works for you. You can say, "I cannot help you move the heavy furniture this weekend, but I can come by for an hour on Tuesday evening to help you unpack some boxes." You are still offering support, but you are doing it entirely on your own terms. You are steering the ship of your own energy, rather than just letting the tide pull you out to sea. When I sent that first text saying, "I did not have the bandwidth," I braced for impact. A few agonizing minutes later, the reply came through. "No worries at all, man. I'll ask someone else." I stared at the screen, entirely stunned. The sky did not fall. The relationship did not shatter. The person just calmly moved on to their next option. That is the deeply humbling moment you realize how much of your fear was completely manufactured in your own head. The world does not end when you prioritize yourself. Breaking the trap of being too nice is not about becoming cold. It is not about becoming selfish or closing your heart off to the people who genuinely need you. It is actually the exact opposite. When you say yes to absolutely everything out of fear, your yes means nothing. It is just a panicked reflex. But when you finally learn how to tolerate the discomfort of saying no, your yes becomes a conscious, beautiful, deliberate choice. You start showing up for people because you truly want to, not because you are terrified of what happens if you do not. You will lose some people along the way. The people who only loved you for how useful you were, the ones who only valued your total compliance, will quietly fade out of your life when you stop over-delivering. And let them. Their departure is not a tragedy, it is a clarification. It makes room for the people who want to sit with you simply because of who you are, not because of what you can do for them. You do not have to earn your right to exist in this world by carrying everyone else's heavy luggage. You are allowed to put the bags down. You are allowed to be inconvenient. And most importantly, you are allowed to finally belong to yourself.